What if I told you you could make any woman deeply attracted to you without even touching her? I'm talking about creating that irresistible pull without having to do the whole touch here or touch here type tactics. I'm going to explain to you guys the 4 steps that you need to be doing in your interactions to get women more turned on outside of the physical aspects. And don't get me wrong, guys, like physical touch is a very powerful tool. I'm not saying that you shouldn't touch the woman, but what I am saying is that in this video, I want to show you guys powerful techniques that wrap up her mind and her imagination. This is where the actual arousal process begins. And when you can master these concepts and stack on physical touch when done properly, then it's officially game over. That's like how you're gonna really dominate your dating life and have the highest levels of success. So as I'm saying all of this, if you're somebody who's not really interacting with that many women, or you're not creating attraction on dates, or you're just not going on the quality of dates that you want, or you're just not going on dates with the type of quality of women that you want in your life, I can help you get those results, okay? You could click the link down below to learn more about my transformation, the clients I help, and how I can help you achieve your dream dating life. All right, link is in the description. Be sure to check that out. Let's get into today's video. So first thing to understand is that when it comes to the non-physical aspects of arousal, this is gonna take time. All right, you're not just gonna walk into an interaction or at the beginning of a date and just flip this switch and then suddenly she's like hypnotized. There's 4 steps that I'm gonna be breaking down, and you need to do all 4 of these. Failure to do any one of these 4 is going to ultimately hinder you or prevent her from truly getting aroused to the level that we want her to be at. And honestly, guys, this will take hours. This is not going to happen in 5 minutes, and that's okay. If you're actually going on quality dates with women and you want to create a really powerful, emotionally charged sexual experience, that's what the process entails, okay? And I'm not saying that she can't be turned on from the moment she meets you. There are women that they see you, and even just physically, she's very intrigued. She may even be somewhat aroused, but there's a whole process that we're going to go through to really put her over the top. So let's get into the 4 steps that you need to start doing in your interactions with women. Starting out with number 1, which is essentially making her comfortable. And I know that that sounds a little beginner. There's beginner aspects to this, and there's also a little bit more advanced concept when it comes to making her comfortable. The reason I want to start out with the beginner stuff is because 10 years ago, when I first started trying to go on more dates and getting better with my social confidence and with women and trying to get women aroused, I was going on dates and I was extremely nervous myself. I actually have several memories of women being back at my house at the end of date 1, date 2, date 3. I was still living in my mom's basement at the time, and we were hanging out in my room on the even some of them laying on my bed with me, and we hadn't kissed. It hadn't gotten that flirty, and it's because I was really nervous. Like, I actually have told the story before on my channel, like my hands used to get so sweaty when I was on dates because I would be so nervous that it was literally to the point where I would be afraid to touch the woman. I was afraid because I didn't know how to properly touch her to actually get her turned on. But not only that, I was actually afraid that if she would have felt how sweaty and clammy my hand was, she would have been like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Like, dude, are you okay? Are you just like, oh wow, you're really nervous, right? And I actually even had one woman call me out on that, and I just played it off like, no, like my hands just get sweaty, blah, 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 blah. I put too much lotion on earlier. And I'm saying all of this because I was literally the guy that I would have to go upstairs to the bathroom. There was no bathroom in my mom's basement at the time, but I would have to go up to the bathroom every 30 to 60 minutes to wash my hands. I would wash my hands with soap like aggressively and then dry them off, and hopefully they just like dried out. And then I would go back downstairs and then they would get more sweaty and then I would have to go wash them again because I was always afraid that that was going to happen. So that was me at a very low level. And as I got more experience going on dates and connecting with women and putting myself out there and pushing my comfort zone and ultimately trying to escalate and get a little bit more sexual with women, over time, I started to calm down. And so the very first part of this, if you're somebody who's not going on that many dates and you're not at a point where you feel confident in the bedroom or with women intimately, the first thing is you need to be able to stay calm. I'm not even talking about advanced things to get her aroused. It's really going to come down to you being able to just be chill and sit back and be okay with getting a little bit closer to her, talking a little bit more intimately, and doing some of the things I'm going to discuss later on in this video. But if you're not even calm and comfortable and relaxed, she for sure is not going to be relaxed. If you're awkward and nervous and tight, there's no way she's fully calm and relaxed. They feel the energy. And I'm putting more emphasis on this initial point because I think a lot of men fail to realize that relaxation is a necessary step before arousal. Right. And when I would think back to my mid-20s, when I would bring women home where I was trying to like rush things in the bedroom because I was a little bit nervous and I was really eager to get to the finish line with things, the woman was never really into it. She was never fully relaxed. She was never fully turned on. I was fucking panicking back then. And so before anything, guys, like if you could really just slow down the whole process and stay calm, that will do so much for you in the long run. And it wasn't until I went through this so many times and literally developed performance anxiety and had a whole year where I was crippled around those things that eventually I learned, okay, I need to chill the fuck out, right? And so over time, I actually slowed down massively and really took my time with it, which allowed me to stay calm. And eventually I was able to get aroused. And then because of that, the women were then able to as well. Okay, so beginner level is just understanding you need to be able to stay calm, but also she needs to feel comfortable around you, right? That's not just by you staying calm, but that's going to be also like connecting on deeper topics and making her feel understood and making her feel like you guys actually get each other. Right? There's alignment between the two of you guys, okay? And to move this to a more advanced concept around point number one, this would be what's known as hitting her blueprint. See, every woman has a different blueprint depending on where she was born, where she was raised, what her childhood was like, what her love language was like how she actually received love as a child, as well as everything she's experienced growing up. Certain women have a different perception of what value is based on how they were raised. And so without going into a crazy long explanation of blueprint, because it is a very deep, dense topic in its own. I could make a whole video course on figuring out a girl's blueprint. Essentially, every woman needs a different ratio of value and attraction versus comfort and connection. So some women need very high levels of attraction and value, right? And then because of those things, they'll get very turned on. Other women might not need as much of that, but they really need to feel like they have a deep connection with a man, but also they may need to feel like they have a deep level of security and trust with that man. It's all due to their upbringing, how they were raised, but also what their past love life and dating life has looked like, because every woman is at a different phase in her dating life. So again, I know this is starting to get a little complex, but just understand that as you start dating more and more, you're going to get a feel for the women that you're on dates with and what they perceive as valuable and what their ideal archetype of a man would be. And I don't mean 6'4" Jack making $1 million. I mean a certain type of intelligence, a certain type of humor, a certain type of interests. Each girl has different types that she's into. And I'm not saying you need to be somebody completely different than who you are, but you can present yourself in different ways to make yourself more attractive or more presentable to a certain audience, the same way that you would present yourself differently to your friends on a night out versus your boss or the people that you talk to in your work office versus your grandma versus you talking to somebody in a cafe versus a nightclub. It's all different communication. It's all still you, but at an advanced level, for men that have been going on dates somewhat consistently, you start to see patterns in women and what they perceive as valuable and what they really like in certain men. And as you can collect that information, you can really connect with them on deeper levels based on their values. All right, really complicated topic. Hopefully I didn't lose you on that point. And if you want to know more about that, maybe let me know down below, or I could just probably dump that into a whole nother video. But the conclusion of point number one, any way that you put it, is you guys need to be able to connect. She needs to feel that comfort connection, some level of trust and security, and some level that, hey, this guy really gets me and I can be myself around him. I feel relaxed. I feel comfortable around him. That is a fundamental piece. If you skip this and you try to just go into escalation and arousal and dirty talk, you will forever be missing a part of this where she feels safe around you. She feels like, even if we were to get intimate, I know that I want to see this guy again. I know that he wants to see me again. I know that there's alignment here down the road. The more that you fail to implement this first part, the more resistance and hesitancy you will get when you're right at the finish line of going all the way with her. And that maybe that's happened to you. You had a girl either other in your bed, or you were about to do it, and at the last minute, she gave you some sort of resistance. That is what's known as you not creating enough trust, comfort, connection, security, and desire to want to see her again. And that ties into everything I'm saying right here. So this is not the only piece, but you cannot rush through this piece either. It's a fundamental foundational piece. Let's move into the next part of this. Let's say we have some comfort and connection building. We're getting to know each other. There's alignment there. So as you start to go on more and more dates, start to get a feel for what type of girl would I categorize? Is she the more fun, outgoing, extroverted, just kind of like free and no judgment, and maybe even a little bit more promiscuous type, right? Is she more reserved, intellectual, wants more kind of like intellectual connection? And keep in mind, you can have a girl that's a little bit of this and a little bit of this, but you can start to get a feel for what is she into and what does she value as you're going on more and more dates with these women. Now let's move into the next necessary point that you will also need to do, which is displaying indirect sexual confidence. Now this is going to be done verbally and also non-verbally. And so for verbally, this is going to be the topics of conversation that you bring up, as well as the stories that you talk about, right? So word for word, what are you saying? Understand, guys, that the way that you talk and the things that you talk about, they indirectly demonstrate how sexually confident or competent you are, okay? And what I've noticed after coaching 1,000+ men and also being a guy that was extremely unconfident sexually is that when I was the unconfident guy, I was very, very reserved with certain topics of conversation. I was extremely in my head in interactions. I would speak with a very big filter because I was very, very concerned of potential judgment and potential rejection, and all of those things indirectly display that I'm not confident. Being categorized as a man who is not confident, that equates to a man who is not confident sexually. It's all a mating dance at the end of the day. Now, what I did notice is that as I continued to go on more and more dates with women and slowly was able to build up my confidence, just going on dates, interacting with women, even getting intimate or sexual with women, as my confidence built up in those different elements, what I noticed was I started to become more and more free in my communication. I started to speak with less of a filter. I started to crack more jokes. I started to even make funny little sexual jokes that weren't too vulgar or aggressive, but I actually started to, just kind of talk about these things a little bit more. I wasn't being directly sexual with the girl and talking about how much I wanted to be in bed with her or anything like that. And I always bring up this one story because it's kind of funny, is that one of the first dates after all of this started happening, I remember telling this story that my dog at the dog park was humping the other dogs. And that led to this ongoing joke that I asked the girl, I was like, well, is your dog like the humper or the humpy? And I'm not saying you need to say that story. I know it's a very silly, stupid story, honestly. It's one small example that I noticed that I did when I was on a date, and it's something that the old me would have never done. And honestly, I would even say that's slightly more direct. Like when I'm saying more indirectly, you don't need to be talking about humping or fingering or anything like actually sexual. It's just a guy who can speak very no filter, no judgment, no F's given in the conversation. Right? And that is done by the things you talk about, the stories you tell, the way that you either hold back or don't hold back in the interaction, right? And that's also why a big part of a lot of the videos I talk about on my channel is when you're in interactions with women, you need to get comfortable being more polarizing by challenging them, injecting playful negative spikes, teasing them, pushing them away, not being afraid in the interaction, not walking on eggshells, because I promise you guys, this is all correlated. And I promise you that the girl is like indirectly thinking like, how would this man be in bed? Whether she's deliberately thinking that or not, it's just something that is automatically assumed based on the way that you talk in your interaction. So that is the verbal side of it, but there's also a non-verbal side of it that ties into everything I'm saying, because your tonality, the speed that you speak at, the confidence that you talk, the confidence in your voice when you're actually communicating, your eye contact, right? Your eye contact, which ties into creating tension. We'll get into that whole thing later on in this video, but all of your non-verbals, your tonality, your ability to pause, to add a dramatic effect at one moment, to inject a little bit more of a cocky smirk at one moment, to lean in a little bit closer and drop your voice down a little bit. This is all part of the mating dance, right? And a guy who's very stiff, who can't manipulate his voice at all, who can't create emotion through his communication, you're not going to provoke emotion within the woman. And the way that we create arousal non-physically is through the communication. Your communication, the words you say and the way it sounds, it creates an emotional effect in somebody, right? And so a lot of men, when I talk to them, I don't hear in their communication the ability to manipulate their voice properly, to inject some charisma at the right time, to inject a little bit of playful cockiness, to display confidence while they're communicating to me. Most of you guys have very flat voices with very weak eye contact. That alone is going to massively hinder you from being able to create arousal through your communication. And if you're somebody who's not good at this, like I was very, very bad at this. My eye contact was absolute trash. I felt super awkward, even trying to force a smile in a conversation, right? It was very, very weird. So those two things made it very difficult, as you can imagine. And I had to practice this over and over again, right? You need to get comfortable talking slow while holding deep eye contact, while being able to crack a little bit of a smile at the right times. And it's an ongoing art form. It's literally an art form that you will need to practice in your interactions. Now, if you're somebody who's barely approaching women and you're not getting any matches online, you're not going on dates, or even if you're going on dates but you're getting ghosted, or they're just not the quality of women that you want in your life, I can help you make that transformation. I started at extremely low levels with this shit, guys. 10 years ago, I was at rock bottom with this stuff. I put in over a decade of work and I've coached over 1,000+ men since 2018. So if you're interested in working with me directly and you want more information on my transformation, the clients I help, and how I can help you achieve your dream dating life, click the link down below. Check out the in-depth training. I go over all of that and a lot more. The link is in the description. Be sure to watch that. Now, we still have 2 more steps that we need to get into to hit all 4 of these, but understand that if we just did point number 1, creating deep connection, right? We're calm, we're comfortable, she feels comfortable, we feel a connection here, maybe we even hit her blueprint a little bit. If we only did that, but there's no actual demonstration of any type of even indirectly sexual confidence through the way that you communicate, it's not triggering the emotions, right? And so a lot of men who end up getting friend zoned, they connect with women. There's comfort, there's connection, there's security, there's trust. She has all of those things with you. Even maybe you've gone on some dates with girls you felt like you're really connected with, but there's no spark. It's because your communication doesn't actually create that spark in the interaction. And that ties into your verbals and your nonverbals. And that's why I put these 2 as the first 2, because even if you just hit these 2, you're in a really good position where you could already start making some things happen, honestly. Now, you add in 3 and 4, we're going way over the top now. So let's get into point number 3, because if there is some sort of connection in place and we do display confidence, there's some sort of, sexual confidence probably indirectly being displayed. Your verbals are good, the conversation's flowing, you got good nonverbals too, you can create the right emotions. Now let's talk about the missing piece, in my opinion, where a lot of men still go wrong, which is the idea of being too forward with it, right? So me personally, at one point in my journey, at first I couldn't really approach or flirt at all, but then once I got decent at that, I started going out and spamming that. I was becoming the intent guy and the escalation guy. There was even a point in my journey where, funny story, I would go out with my friends and we had this drill, this game that we would play when we would go out at night, where you would go up and approach women and literally try to escalate up to a kiss within 1 minute of starting the interaction. Now, I understand that that's, it was a very immature thing, and it's not necessarily an effective strategy that you should be doing. We did it more as an internal challenge, because in order to even get to that point in 1 minute, you would really need to have to be a little bit more direct and get in a little bit more closer and, really have to push your comfort zone to do that. So it wasn't effective in terms of like the ideal strategy by any means, but it was really good as a means of pushing my comfort zone. And I learned how to really present myself in a very attractive way early on. And so, yes, it is an effective drill, and you could try to practice doing it, which, by the way, you do not force yourself on any woman or make her kiss you by any means. That's not what I was saying with all this. It's more about you pushing yourself and trying to be more direct, especially if you're more on the nice guy side of things, right? That it can really help. But I'm saying this story because once I got good at doing that, the next missing piece for me really was actually dialing that back and learning how to be intrigued or curious about the woman, but not won over, but not yet sold. Okay. You need to be interested, but not yet sold. So even if there's a connection in place, even if you got good communication, even if you know that you're good at flirting, the next problem that I see with a lot of men is that they give their power away early on in the interaction, and the girl knows that you really, really want her. There's no challenge there. So you can approach a woman, you can go on a date with a woman, you can flirt with a girl, display intent, and even escalate a little bit. However, there's certain things that you need to do to put the brakes on it from time to time, right? There's this old concept that's called 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And essentially what that is that you escalate a little bit, but then at some point you need to dial it back a little bit. And then you can escalate a little bit further later on, and then you dial it back. And the reason why that's effective is because most men just go 0 to 100, right? And so it shows them to be a little bit slower with it. And I think that that's good at a beginner level, just this idea of I'm going to go 2 steps forward, I'm going to take 1 step back. But what I really think at a more advanced level is you need to learn how to be interested, intrigued, curious, even attracted, yet you're not quite won over. You're not yet sold, right? And so at each level, you're moving things forward, but you are also the one that pulls things back from time to time, right? And that is extremely important, because the moment that the girl knows she has you, it's not a challenge anymore. It's not a challenge anymore. She's not wrapped up in this idea. Does he like me? Do I have him? Do I not have him? Oh, I think I have it. Right? And women think like that. If you are over escalating, if you are being too direct, if you are making it very obvious, very predictable that she can have you and you're sold, even if we're on the date, it's just not as exciting. It is much more exciting and stimulating from a female's perspective of a man who's attractive, who's curious about her, who's intrigued, who's enjoying getting to know her, and is slowly getting turned on, is slowly getting won over by her. And as that keeps building up and up and up, it encourages her to chase after you a little bit too. Like, she actually starts participating and reciprocating in the escalation and seduction process, right? You need that aspect to it. So if you're wondering, well, when are we sold? When are we won over? It slowly builds up and up and up and up, all the way until the point of actually getting intimate, right? There's a lot of women I'm sure you've been on dates with, or maybe you not going on dates, in which case click the link down below. But if you have been on dates with women where you were like unsure about, is tonight the night? Is it going to go down? I don't know if it's going to go down. And then like eventually it ends up going down. You didn't know. You weren't sure if she was sold or not on the whole thing. Like, that's how it's actually done. And so I'm just showing you how to speak the same language as the woman, because if they don't know, if they know you're attracted and intrigued and they feel like they're winning you over, if they feel like they're seducing you, and it's this mutual buildup, that's what really gets her wrapped up in it, man. And that's what this whole video is about. Taking over her imagination, influencing her mind in a way where she is starting to get more and more and more aroused. And this is a big part of that dance. It's a dance. It's not you sprinting at her head on. You understand what a dance is, right? It's a dance, man. And so once you have all 3 of these, now we're getting to a really good place where the girl's actually into you. She feels like it's a little bit of a challenge. She's having fun. She's attracted. She feels comfort. She feels connection. We're hitting all of the pieces. The last piece of this, which in my opinion is the bridge, a necessary step as well to go from having all of those things to actual intimacy, is tension. Okay, I was talking about this a little bit earlier, but there's different parts to tension. Do not just be like, oh, it's tension. No, there's different parts to this. Okay, so the problem that I had earlier on in my journey was that I was kind of saying this earlier, my eye contact was not that good. And so even if I had enough connection, even if there was some levels of attraction in place and I started to get closer to women, I couldn't dominate them with my eye contact at a very close level. And so even if we got to these moments, at some point, even if we were getting closer, I would start laughing. The girl's not going to keep getting closer and closer and closer to you if you're not showing her that you're up to her level in terms of confidence, right? If the girl feels like you're like backing away and you can't even hold the eye contact, like that's why you're probably not having intimacy with women, is because you can't hold the tension. Like I couldn't hold the tension. I would nervously laugh. I would look away. I would break the eye contact. And those are the opportunities to actually start to build the tension. Okay, you want to start building the tension. And so what I would recommend if you're at lower levels is you just need to get more and more comfortable holding eye contact. You're going to need to practice this in your day-to-day, not just on dates. With every single person that you encounter in your day-to-day, you're going to want to practice holding eye contact. But more importantly, you want to practice holding the eye contact until they look away. Even if that means you need to force the eye contact and hold that fucking uncomfortable eye open. Right? I started doing this when I was like 25, 26, when I knew that my eye contact sucked. I would avoid even hanging out with my one friend who was really good at eye contact, because if it was just me and him, I'd be forced in this weird, awkward, uncomfortable situation where I didn't want to be in, so I wouldn't even hang out with them one-on-one. I started practicing my eye contact more and more. But once I turned like 24, 25, I remember I used to go down to the Jersey Shore during the summertime. My friends and we rented out a shore house in Belmar, and it was an awesome party spot, right? We were young. We would invite all these people over to the house. We would party. We'd go out to the clubs out there. Even my really old infields that I used to put on my channel, some of them were from Belmar, New Jersey, because it was just awesome nighttime stuff. But we had a couple girls at the house, and I was starting to practice my eye contact more and more, and I would hold this stare with these women, and one or two of them even told me, "You have a really intense stare." The other one was like, "You have really piercing eye contact." And at the time I was like, "Yeah, that's right, I'm working on my eye contact." That's right, what's up? But really what it was that I had to force the eye contact. And so I didn't have this unwavering gaze of confident, relaxed eye contact. I had this intense stare. I had this piercing stare because I had to force it. So if you need to force it, force it. Hold it past that uncomfortable point. But at some point, as you get better and better with it, you're not going to need to force it. It's on autopilot because you've done it so much, and you could just kind of chill back. Right? And so that's how you get that unwavering eye contact. So that's beginner level, what you need to do. Now, more advanced levels, once you're building this up, what I would actually encourage you guys to do is once you're on dates and you're actually doing all of these steps together and you feel like the tension is building, I want you to get to that point where you can actually dominate her with your eye contact and force her to break the eye contact away. That's the place that you want to get to. You want to get to a point where we get in close and you have this moment where you have a little bit of a smirk on your face. You're not laughing and I look away because I can't hold the eye contact. No, you need to be able to, again, ties back to point number 2, the non-verbals. You need to be able to talk nice and slow, hold that unwavering eye contact, and get it to a place where she looks away. And this might be in between sentences, because initially if you guys are talking, she might be looking at you, but once you finish your sentence, it will be silent for at least a half second to a second. And you might even feel more uncomfortable at this point, unless you've been practicing everything I'm mentioning in this video. But you want to get to a place where you're just totally chill, and she'll start to blush, she'll start to giggle, she'll start to start to pivot her head away slightly, and then she's actually going to come back to you. She'll look back at you. And when that happens, you should still be looking at her in a very relaxed, confident way, with a little bit of a smirk on your face, in a very relaxed manner. You still have unwavering eye contact, but then she looks back at you and you're still looking at her. And then you very slowly just crack a 10% little cocky smile. And then you could say some little flirty thing, right? And that's going to hit so hard, because it's not about the words you say in those moments. With the tension, everything is slowed down and the nonverbals get amplified and exaggerated. So just focus on being really slow, unwavering eye contact, a little bit of that cocky smile, and you don't need to say anything crazy. You can say anything. Anything will hit in that moment. It's not about the words, it's all of the nonverbals there. But if you can't hold the tension, you don't capitalize on those moments. You'll miss that window and you'll nervously look away, and then you kind of blew that opportunity to really turn up the interaction to a high level where she's like, dude, when you have those moments and she has to look away and then she starts giggling, Do you get what's going on? Like, internally, she's feeling all of these emotions, right? She's like probably even getting wet, honestly, if you did everything I'm talking about properly. That's when you're doing this shit right, man. And we don't even need to touch. That's the whole point of this video, is you hit all 4 of these things, dude, she's gonna be aroused. I promise you she'll be aroused, because I've done this enough times. And like I said at the beginning of the video, guys, like, don't not touch her, like, add in light physical touch. But I really just wanted to put an emphasis on, it's really not about the touch. If you can really wrap up a girl's mind and her mental through everything I'm talking about here, you can 100% get her really aroused. Okay, so these are really powerful concepts to start to wrap up a girl's mind. But I will say that this is not the entire structure. Like, this is not the big picture overview of everything you need to do to actually land consistent dates with women. So if you want to know more about the full structure, you can just check out this video right here. This is how I helped a client of mine actually land 40 dates during the duration of working with me. Or honestly, guys, if you're done watching YouTube, if you've watched enough YouTube already, but your life isn't actually changing, like, you're still not approaching, you're not going on dates, or you're not dating the quality of women that you want, stop watching YouTube. What you actually need to do is get coaching. All right, I would love to help you make that transformation. If you want to learn more about my journey, the clients I've helped, more details about my coaching programs, and how I can help you achieve your dream dating life now, click the link down below, watch that in-depth training. I go over all of that and so much more. The link is in the description for anybody that's interested in potentially working with me directly. That's all for this video, guys. Peace out.